Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films and find out how relevant they are to today's lifestyle. That was Disease Carriers. It was probably made in the late 20s or early 30s. Part of the Mogul Brothers collection, which is part of the Oregon Archive in Pittsburgh. Trying to teach the general public about how disease is spread. Boy, we could certainly use that information. Anyhow, we watched, like I said, old 16mm films, and this next one is, the title was obviously tacked on because you can tell. And so we called it Glimpses of Legendary South Africa because I can't remember why, but you can tell that there's a difference in the whatever was tacked on to the footage versus the footage itself. So enjoy.
South Africa can justly be proud of its many game reserves created to preserve its varied wildlife and provide opportunities for the student and the visitor to see the animals in their natural surroundings. An exciting and unforgettable experience. The most famous game... Every camp has a shop where you can buy food and provisions if you do your own cooking. And there are curios. Why not a cushion of zebra skin? And when evening comes, comfortable accommodation awaits you in the camp, deliberately simple in keeping with the atmosphere of the park. And there's always a restaurant if you tire of your own cooking. Not far from Bloemfontein is a new reserve, the Willem Pretorius. There is a restaurant and charming rondavels overlooking the placid waters of Allemanskraal. A few miles away, between the Black and the White Umfolozi rivers, is another game reserve. Umfolozi is one of the last homes of the rare white rhino. Thanks to conservation, the herds have increased until today the rhinos number nearly 800. So they're easy to find and photograph. From the camp at Charters Creek, Lake St. Lucia stretches as far as the eye can see. This is a different kind of game reserve along the north coast of Natal.
So the South Africa tourism folks, it looks like they just took a clip out of something and uh, put something on the beginning and the end. Um, and I don't know where our title, the Glimpses of Legendary South Africa, came from. It might have been written on the can. Yeah, who knows? Anyways, here's an example of something that was written on the can but is not also the correct title. So on the can, Life of a Duck. And I love titles like that. I'm like, that's not, that didn't sound right. That sounds like if that's really the title, that's something that somebody who doesn't normally do educational films wrote, or maybe it's an art film or something. Turns out that's not the real title. So we have it on the telecine behind me. And this is a way we can watch films, transfer them live. So here is actually the title of the film is Life Cycle of a Muscovy Duck. Enjoy.
Is this curious bird a duck or a goose? Scientists are still seeking the answer to many questions regarding the exact origin and methods of inheritance of this goose-like Muscovy duck. Although found in the domesticated state in nearly all parts of the world today, this fowl is one of the wild birds of the forest and stream that has been tamed by man. It is a descendant of the wild Brazilian pato, a surface-feeding water bird that breeds along the banks of rivers, lagoons, forested streams, and coastal areas of Central and South American countries. When the Spanish found the natives using this species of duck for domestic purposes during the 16th century, they exported some of the birds to Europe. In the wild state, the Brazilian pato feeds upon small fish, mollusks, and both aquatic and terrestrial insects, plants, and seeds. Like all ducks, they have boat-shaped bodies, and they use their webbed feet as paddles when they swim. These predominantly dark-feathered birds nest in trees and roost on the branches. Captive ducks in zoos and barnyards may retain these habits unless their wings are clipped to keep them on the ground. Although the appearance and some of the characteristics of the Muscovy duck have been modified by domestication, the species has maintained hereditary traits and many natural feeding and nesting habits. In order to meet their dietary need for green plants, they will strip the leaves from garden plants and trees unless adequate grazing fields are provided. In addition to these natural foods, ducks that are being raised for market are placed upon a fattening diet, consisting of grain and gravel, to which vitamins and minerals are added. It is essential that plenty of cool, fresh water be kept within reach of all ducks, as they need a drink with almost every bite of food. Like their ancestors, they dabble on the water, as may be found in their immediate environment. They retain food morsels on the tongue, while excess water is strained out through a sieve-like structure which lines the edge of the beak. Their flat, webbed feet the mud as they waddle about on land. Ducks' feathers are water repellent because of their shingle-like arrangement and texture. The beak is used to extract a bright chrome substance from a skin gland above the tail. This oil-like exudate is rubbed onto the feathers during the process known as preening. How much this substance affects the quality of the plumage and whether it serves as a beak dressing to keep this organ from becoming brittle is a subject which is still open to scientific experimentation. The adult drake usually weighs about 10 pounds, while the female duck averages about 7 pounds. One of the unique features of the adult muscovy is the patch of red skin folds or caruncles which appear on the forehead and at the base of the bill. These are similar to those found on the turkey gobbler and are more prominent on the drake than they are on the duck. The large eye affords an excellent opportunity to study the workings of the nictitating membrane, or third eyelid. Instead of moving vertically over the surface of the eye, as do the two outer lids, it moves in a horizontal direction. It is believed that this movement serves to reduce the amount of light filtering into the eye, and that it cleanses and protects the eyeball. At nesting time, the duck makes a simple egg cradle of grass, leaves, and debris. She lines and surrounds the nest with down plucked from her breast. When she leaves for food or water, she blankets the eggs with this warm down and pulls it aside at hatching time. The incubation period of muscovy eggs is about 35 days, 1 week longer than that of all other ducks. The egg tooth, a knob-like structure at the tip of the bill, is used to break the shell and is cast off later. Whether they are hatched in a nest or an incubator, the hatching time required by individual birds varies, usually ranging from 20 minutes to an hour. This little duckling is seeing the world upside down, but he soon writes himself a good example of forced environmental adaptation. The downy feathers of the young dry within a few minutes after the birds have hatched, and they are able to stand almost immediately. The domesticated duck rears her young with the intense maternal instinct of the wild species, requiring little assistance from man. Mudworms, flies, and mosquitoes are among the first natural foods relished by the ducklings. The mother duck usually leads her brood in search of water within about 48 hours after hatching. They waddle about awkwardly on land. But they are graceful and agile in the water. Even the newly hatched ducklings swim and dive with ease without having to be taught by the mother. Note how she follows rather than leads them into the pond. If you look closely, you will see black markings on the heads of several of the ducklings, while the downy plumage of others is a clear yellow. This is an indication that some of this brood will have all white plumage, while others may be spotted with black when they are full grown. Muscovy ducks are commonly known as quackless ducks because the female quacks only when she is frightened or angry. And the muted voice of the male is a deep, wheezy hiss. When partly grown, ducks that are to be used for breeding purposes have their food rations cut down so that they will be forced to exercise by foraging for their own natural foods. Like geese, they are very good grazers. They use their spoon-shaped bills as traps to catch flies and other insects on the wing, and to cut grass to eat. In damp weather, and after diving and swimming, they preen their plumage with great care, and take sun baths as well as water baths in fair weather. When 6 or 7 weeks old, their downy suits begin to be covered with stubby feathers. And in about 7 months, they attain their adult plumage and are ready to mate and continue the life cycle of their kind. The plumage color is inherited, but different patterns such as this pure white, piebald, and black and white may be emphasized or changed through controlled breeding. In poultry shows, Muscovies are judged according to the 2 varieties approved by the American Poultry Association. The pure colored variety is bred by mating birds possessing the color and pigment factors or genes which are necessary to produce colored offspring. The pure white variety is the result of mating birds which are lacking in the hereditary genes essential for color. If, however, 2 white birds possessing the complementary color genes are crossed, they will produce colored offspring in a certain ratio. This is because the traits of the offspring are not determined by the outward appearance, but by the nature of the genes contributed by each of the parent birds in the cells that go to make the embryo. Since in this cross, each white bird supplied a color gene, the color inheritance of both the mallard and the muscovy reappears in the offspring. Although the exact ratios and methods of color inheritance of muscovies have yet been scientifically recorded, it is known that, to date, no fertile offspring have been produced from matings of muscovies with other breeds of ducks. Because of these facts and other unique characteristics that make this species different from all other ducks, the muscovy offers a challenge to science students to carry on breeding experiments in the hope of discovering some of the secrets of inheritance of this strange goose-like duck.
Yeah, there you go. More than you ever wanted to know about the Muscovy duck. And is it a duck? Is it a goose? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe, somebody can look and see if there's been recent science that the students of science have experimented and have figured it out. Yeah. This next film is made by the Walter J. Klein Company, which was based in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they would make educational films, but really sponsored films. Films sponsored by different entities. And then they would distribute films to TV stations who were looking for free content, and also to schools where they would probably charge for them. So this one shows a lot of the Charlotte area. I grew up near the Charlotte area, within an hour of Charlotte, North Carolina. So a lot of this resonates with me. And this shows how great North Carolina is via balloon. Enjoy.
Guido's coming. That's my friend from Italy, and he's finally coming to visit.
Guido's coming. I've been planning this for months. I'm going to show Guido my state. It's the one place he's never been. North Carolina. Ah, yeah. What can I say? North Carolina's my home state, and I love it. I want to show it to Guido so he can enjoy it as much as I do.
Guido arrived this morning with his entourage. He thinks we're going to drive across the state. Boy, is he in for a surprise.
What better way to see North Carolina? This is the only way to fly! Carolinians call them the Appalachians, or the Blue Ridge, or the Great Smokies. But whatever the name, our mountains remain the same. Breathtaking. Smoky mists drift through gaps each morning, setting the mountains on fire. And deep down below live those special Tar Heels, the craftsmen. Like some old man looking down on all the whippersnappers about him looms Grandfather Mountain, the highest peak in the Blue Ridge. Located between Linville and Boone, Grandfather Mountain is a cantankerous old sort with clouds for whiskers and a disposition that borders on beautiful. From his mile-high swinging bridge, you can watch hang gliders dance in the wind. You can see the Sphinx Rock. Take a few minutes and talk with Mildred the bear. Visit the environmental habitat, or listen to the pipes of the Scottish Highland Games every summer. Did you hear it? There it goes again. And again, 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 and again. Wheatsea Railroad is about to brave another run in the mountains between Blowing Rock and Boone. She's a grand machine full of wide-eyed boys and girls, heroes and villains, and wild Indians. Each day, Tweetsie chugs out of the station on her way to amusement and adventure. High atop the Smokies is the observatory on Mount Mitchell, the tallest peak east of the Mississippi. Driving can seem like flying if you travel the Blue Ridge Parkway. Enjoy an endless view of the brilliance of North Carolina forest. And even if you have an Italian friend like Guido, who's been everywhere, he hasn't been anywhere until he's seen America's finest castle, the Biltmore Estate in Asheville. Okay, now let's see. Where are we? It must be... Whoops! Oh well, who needs a map? Ah, we must be over Winston-Salem, home of Old Salem. The city of Charlotte. This is the New South. Bright, straight lines of business cut through the horizon. We're flying over forested, gently rolling hills which separate North Carolina's mountain and coastal regions. This is the Piedmont. These are the cities built of banks, tobacco, and textiles. And the architecture reflects the people, flowing lyric structures full of fantasy and determination. And the Piedmont Tar Heels reflect the energy, the vitality that is uniquely North Carolina. For those down-to-earth people who want a bit of the wild and free, you can follow the Carolina winds to Carowinds, the state's largest theme park with rides and shows for every member of the family. Located just outside of Charlotte, Carowinds is a body-shaking, mind-boggling, tickling good time. Camp Dogwood for the Blind, located on Lake Norman, is designed to appeal to more than just our sense of sight. Campers who can't see can canoe or swim or swing or ski. The senses of smell and touch can be just as sharp as sight on one of Camp Dogwood's nature trails. It's that sixth sense, that sense of caring, that typifies the Tar Heel heart. This is more than just a State of the Union. North Carolina is a state of mind, full of people who help their fellow Tar Heels through organizations such as Lions Clubs. Camp Dogwood is only one of many projects that are sponsored for the visually impaired by the North Carolina Lions Association for the Blind. Zebras from Africa and ostriches from Australia are all to be found at our state zoo. When completed, the North Carolina State Zoo at Asheboro will be the world's largest natural environmental habitat. Animals from every continent are in wide, open areas for all to see. Within a 30-mile radius of one another, you can visit the campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, or Duke University at Durham, or NC State University at Raleigh, three of our state's finest schools. The striking shape of our legislative building in the Capitol at Raleigh stands out above the rest.
even from up here. With over 300 golf courses to play, North Carolina offers a different game year-round. And what resort is synonymous with golf? Pinehurst, proud possessor of 5 18-hole courses and the World Golf Hall of Fame. Throughout the coastal region of North Carolina, you can sense the Atlantic. The sweet smell of salt air, brisk and crisp, spreads across the horizon. Eastern North Carolina is a world apart. For the history buff, New Bern is the home of a magnificent, completely restored residence of Royal Governor Tryon. Tryon's palace is due west of North Carolina's Outer Banks, a strand of islands studded with sand dunes. Each island has its own personality. Cape Hatteras is a national seashore with 45 miles of undeveloped beaches for swimming or surf fishing. And Roanoke Island is where Sir Walter Raleigh established a colony in the 16th century, only to find it mysteriously deserted. The Wright Memorial is located at Kitty Hawk, where Orville and Wilbur launched their first airplane. North Carolina is our state, a come-as-you-are state, with more than 19,000 public and private campgrounds, 25 state parks, 4 national forests, 2 national seashores, and the Great Smoky National Park to see and enjoy in any season, and at any altitude!
So yeah, like I said, I pretty much from the 4th grade on, I think it was like 1975 on, I was in North Carolina, so a lot of that resonates, and I was in high school when this came out. So yeah, Tweetsy Railroad, of course, went to Grandfather Mountain. I went to Carowinds, of course, went to NC State is where I went to college. UNC is supposedly our rivals, but I've done some digitizing work for them, and of course for Duke University I've also done digitizing work for them. So, and then, you know, all those other places we went to, different places. But yeah, that was an ad for basically North Carolina, and all the sites in North Carolina, and those grants were basically advertising, sponsoring grants. All right, so I got another film set up on the telecine, and I haven't changed the name of it. So we're going from Muscovy to Moscow. Enjoy.
These dancers are doing a modern-day version of an old Russian folk dance. They're performing it in a city that's the capital of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Moscow. Moscow is the Soviet Union's political, industrial, and research center. It's a big city with more than 8 million residents. It's also the capital of the Soviets' 15 republics. The Soviet Union is the world's largest country, stretching across large parts of Eastern Europe and Asia. Moscow lies in the west, or the European part of the country. Moscow, when it was still a village, was first named in the year 1147 in a letter from Prince Yuri the Long-Armed. The city was built on a hill overlooking the Moscow River. After a few years, a great wooden wall was built around the city, creating the first Kremlin, the Russian word for fort. Today, Moscow is one of the most popular tourist spots for the country's more than 290 million citizens. They come from every republic, even though the journey is long and expensive. To accommodate them, large, modern hotels have been built. Since the days of Prince Yuri the Long-Armed, the heart of Moscow has been the Kremlin. But at the end of the 1400s, the original wooden wall was torn down, replaced by a sturdier wall of red brick. Inside the Kremlin, great treasures and much of Russia's history are being carefully preserved. Cathedrals with golden domes were once the Tsar's private churches. Today, the Kremlin is open to all, and those cathedrals have been turned into museums. Behind the clock tower of Ivan the Great rests the so-called Tsar Bell. It weighs 200 tons and is probably the biggest bell in the world. Another giant example of the Russian art of casting is the Tsar cannon, a monster weapon that has never been fired. Apparently, it was built as a scare tactic. What enemy would dare attack a city which had a cannon that big? Still, enemies have tried to capture this city, to no avail. Moscow became the turning point for would-be conquerors like Napoleon and Hitler. The Kremlin today is more than a cradle of history. It's the seat of the Soviet government. Within the Kremlin walls is the High Soviet, the Communist Party's highest decision-making body, the one that actually controls the Soviet Union. Outside the Kremlin wall lies Red Square, another famous site, and a mecca for tourists. It is here, in Red Square, that the superpower Soviet Union holds its military parades, displaying its might for all the world to see. In the middle of the square, against the Kremlin wall, is the Lenin Mausoleum. Vladimir Lenin, founder of the Soviet Union, and its leader during the Russian Revolution of 1917. He died in 1924. The mausoleum was built a few years later. Now it attracts pilgrims from all over the country. Summer and winter, they line up for hours to see and honor the body of the man who was the Soviet Union's first leader. Elsewhere on Red Square, the Vasily Cathedral, with its 8 distinctive onion-shaped domes. Legend has it that Tsar Ivan the Horrible, fearing that the architects who built this cathedral might someday build one even more distinctive for some other ruler, ordered that the architects' heads be cut off. On the other side of the Kremlin, the grave of the unknown soldier. This, too, is a popular spot for tourist photographers. Across from Lenin's mausoleum is a large government-owned department store called GUM. Shoppers often find shortages of many items in the Soviet Union. But here at GUM, they find practically everything. Some 85 million customers each year come to shop for food, clothing, home electronics, or souvenirs. Moscow is an industrial city too, dotted with many factories. It is also the home of the Soviet Union's largest university. One Russian word that has become meaningful not only for Russians, but for the entire world is glasnost. The word means openness. It became popularized when Mikhail Gorbachev became party chairman in 1985. He opened himself to the Russian people, spoke with them, listened to them, something previous Soviet leaders did not do. His plan, he says, is to allow small businesses, restaurants, and stores to be privately owned. He also wants to abolish, or at least cut down, the heavy Russian bureaucracy. As in other big cities, transportation in Moscow is a problem. Many commuters choose to take the subway, the metro, by far the quickest, easiest way to get around. The metro also happens to be a unique tourist attraction. Visitors come to see the works of art in a subway system widely regarded as the world's most beautifully decorated subway. The Moscow River, running through the capital city, has a constant flow of tourist boats and barges. Located beside the river is Gorky Park, a favorite playground of Muscovites. They maneuver a variety of boats on one of the lakes, or ride the great Ferris wheel, or simply stroll the gardens. There are parks sprinkled throughout the city, and places for those trying to escape the heat to go for a cool dip. The only legal political party in the Soviet Union is the Communist Party, and the government discourages the practice of religion. Even so, many churches and monasteries still remain in Moscow, several of them richly decorated with paintings and icons. In one of Moscow's many theaters, tourists enjoy watching folk dancing from various Soviet republics. But the biggest tourist attraction in the city is probably the Moscow Circus. Its acrobats are world famous. And of course, the inevitable Russian bear. Moscow, with its historical buildings and golden onion domes, is a throbbing, vital capital city. The heart, the brain of that superpower known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
8. That's kind of late. It's not the latest film we have. I think we figured out that the cutoff time for most 16 millimeter educational films is like 92. So, almost there. I'm going to squeeze this one in. Developing Self-Reliance. Enjoy.
Did you ever watch a baby being fed? You can see how completely we depend on others when we're very small. A baby just can't do much of anything for himself. Of course, as we grow older, most of us begin to strike out for ourselves. We begin to develop something called self-reliance. Often, though, we're restrained. We aren't given enough freedom to develop self-reliance. It's much easier to put Junior's snowsuit on him than wait for him to do it himself. And before long, Junior sees, too, that it's much easier to let others wait on him. He begins to like being dependent. Why take care of your own pet if someone else will do it for you? Why struggle with your lessons if you can get Dad to help? This is an easy way to get by. The trouble is, if you're not self-reliant, you'll never do any more than just get by.
Come in.
I've been working on this problem. I wonder if you can help me.
Let's see. Look, why do you bother me with something simple like this? Something I'm paying you to decide. You'll never get ahead around here or anywhere else unless you can make some decisions of your own.
Yes, sir.
And that's what can happen when you don't learn self-reliance.
Mr. Carson, are you trying to tell me that I'm not self-reliant?
Why, Alan, I didn't say anything about you. But I find it often helps to paint that picture for students like you who come to me complaining that they don't feel they're accomplishing much. A little dose of self-reliance can do wonders. Any one of us could use a bit more than we have.
All right, Mr. Carson, I think I understand. Just how do you become self-reliant?
Oh, you want a quick, easy formula, huh? I'm afraid there isn't any. Learning to be self-reliant takes time and hard work.
It takes self-reliance, Mr. Carson.
It almost does. Here, this card may interest you. These are the steps to self-reliance as I see them.
Assume responsibility, be informed, know where you're going, make your own decisions. I'm not sure I understand.
Well, let's figure them out together. Sit down. First, assume responsibility. What do you suppose that means?
Well, assume responsibility, that means to take the blame for things that are my fault.
Uh-huh. Looking after your own schoolwork, planning your own time, depending upon yourself to be on time.
On time. Boy, I'd better assume responsibility for getting to my next class on time.
And Alan, why don't you assume the responsibility for figuring out what those other steps mean?
Yeah, I will. That's a good idea. Thanks, Mr. Carson. Assume responsibility. Do things for yourself. Not a bad idea at that. What's the next thing on this card? Be informed. Well, it's easy to see why you should be informed in class. You have to get facts and information in order to keep up. You have to know where to get information, too. But why be informed about other things besides schoolwork? Well, better get after the schoolwork now. Mom, do you think I look all right this way, or should I wear a tie?
Why, that depends on where you're going. Will you be expected to wear a tie?
Be informed.
What, dear?
Oh, nothing. Thanks, Mom. I'll figure it out myself. Let's see. We'll go to the movies and then to Ann's house for snacks. I might meet Ann's parents. Better wear a tie. Be informed. That can answer a lot of problems. Yeah, that's better.
Are you leaving right away, Alan?
No, Jack's coming by for me.
Say, there's something that I've been wanting to ask you. Have you decided on what courses you're going to take next year?
Oh, no. I don't know what to take, Dad. Jack's going to take American literature, and Eddie signed up for speech class. But I don't know what I want to take.
Well, I hope you don't let your friends lead you around this way. What will you get out of these courses? What do you want to get out of them? If you know what you want in life...
Know where you're going. Make your own decisions.
What in the world are you talking about?
Oh, well, I sort of want to develop a little self-reliance. Mr. Carson gave me this.
Self-reliance, huh? Well, that's a good thing. Are these from Emerson?
Emerson?
Sure. Haven't you read Emerson's essay on self-reliance? I think we have a copy of it here somewhere.
Well, I think you'll find it on the third shelf.
Thanks, dear. The foundation of our way of life, someone once called it. Oh, yes, here it is. Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I learned a lot from this essay when I was your age.
Thanks, Dad. I'll read it.
You may have to if you take American literature.
I think I'll read it no matter what course I take. What about those courses, Dad? Will you give me a little time to think? I have a lot of work to do before I make any decisions.
Sure.
Oh, there's Jack. Bye, Mom. Dad.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Now, you may think that's the end of Alan's story. Actually, it's only the beginning. Alan learned very quickly the meaning of the steps to self-reliance, but it takes quite a long while to make self-reliance a habit. I watched Alan for several months. I saw how he assumed responsibility. For example, he took a job on the student forum and worked at it seriously. I saw how he kept himself informed. He studied hard. He read more than just the assignments. He talked to people and listened to them. He wanted to be informed, and he never missed a chance to learn something. I saw how Alan found where he was going. He came to me sometimes for advice, but he never asked me to decide for him. He thought seriously about his goals, his purposes. I saw how he learned to make decisions for himself, always on the basis of the best information he could get. And then just the other day, at another student forum meeting, I saw Alan show how really self-reliant he has become. The students were quite upset about our parking situation around the school, but no one was able to offer much of a solution. That is, until Alan spoke up.
Just what is the problem? Those who drive to school can't keep on parking in the street. I understand it's too narrow. That's why we've been getting tickets there. We'll just have to find another place for our cars and motorbikes. I've been looking into this. You know, since we got the new tennis courts, maybe the old ones just north of the school building could easily be made into a parking space. We could do what little work there is, and we could ask the principal for his approval.
Yeah, but who?
Will you ask him? Well, sure, if you want me to. I'll take on that responsibility. Okay, you get in contact. Let's close the meeting. Okay.
Yes, sir. That was self-reliance, the kind we can all use. It's hard work to become self-reliant, but these are the steps. Assume responsibility, be informed, know where you are going, make your own decisions. Alan learned to do it, and he's certainly a happier and a better person for it. Will you develop the habit of self-reliance?
Love me a cornet film, as people have mentioned. If it's a cornet film, start a list, make a list. But thanks for tuning in today. If you like what you saw, you'd like to support us, you can go buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. You can also go to avgeeks.com and see other things that we have done and streamed and digitized, and also there's DVDs you can buy there. You can also buy us coffee at buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks. And you can hit the like button, the subscribe button, the thumbs up, the bell, any of those weird things that you can do to say that, hey, you actually like what we're doing. We'll be back again tomorrow, and please rewind, love each other, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care.